program many years before I started there, and is now farming himself in 2 locations or 1 location. Yeah. You'll talk about it. And so he's a farmer and also an educator. He works with farmers through the Latino Economic Development Center, but I'll let you talk more about your experience. So welcome, Rodrigo. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi everyone. My name is Rodrigo Cala. I am a Latino farmer. I have a farm on Turtle Lake, Wisconsin. I have a 46 acres farm. 26 acres are forest. 17 acres are tillable. 3 acres are we have a house and farm buildings, barns, silos. You can see on the picture. It's a 1940 house. You can see in this picture that here is the farm. Really old. It's really expensive to heat the house. When we get the farm, we expend like $600 a month for heat the house because it's so old. But we put a new system using wood, so we spend money, but not that much. I'm gonna try to talk about investments, but it's gonna be, I don't know, it's a little tricky. I'm gonna explain how I start my business, and I start invest most of my money on tools and tractors and greenhouses and all the things that I need for make more money. So we can talking really poetic about farming, but we need to make a living. So it's fun. It's sometimes crazy. I'm gonna try to explain my history. I was working on a full-time job for 10 years because I don't make any money on farming for the first, I don't know, 5 years. Right now I think I break even, but I don't make enough money, so I working with a Latino organization giving classes to immigrants or Latino farmers around. I start giving classes to Latino farmers on Minnesota. Now I give trainings to farmers around the country. I travel to Washington, to Florida, to Wisconsin, to a few different states. Try to do my job. So it's a reality. It's very hard to make money on farming, but it's a way of living. You need to work really smart to make money. I don't know, I think for the first 3 or 4 or 5 years you need to work on another job. Sometimes when I tell people I work into full time, people don't believe me. They think it's not true, but it's true. Because in the beginning I start my days, because we don't have any tractors or any tools. So we do everything by hand. So we start from 6 o'clock in the morning. At 1 o'clock I going to work. So then I working on a horseshoes factory for 8 hours, and then I going home. And the next morning I start at 6 a.m. again, and Saturday and Sunday I working a full day. So it's really hard. Maybe if you going to conference or workshops, people really talk I don't know, romantic about farming, but the reality is a little different. you need to work really, really hard. You need to sacrifice yourself and your family. Even if your health is no good, I mean, you need to think about this kind of jobs. But I really like to work outside. I work in a factory for 10 years and I don't learn anything. I was working on a high-tech company. Everything we do the company, because some people thinking, oh, this is my company. No, this is not your company. On that kind of companies, you are a number. And my number, I remember is like 622 is my number. And the number is first and my name is second. So for a company, just myself is just a number. I don't learn anything. I learn just to push buttons because they have a robot for do everything. Your job is just watching the robot. You working with when you need to reteach the system or fix the robot or change parts. But besides that, I don't learn anything. It was a really dusty, dangerous, bad place to work. I was happy for the first, 5 years, and then I was thinking, what I am doing here. I don't was happy at all. So then, when I start working, when I start taking my trainings on Minnesota Food Association, I start just for the idea to grow my own food. Just I start with a small parcel, and then in 2 years, we start working on 2 acres on that farm. I finished my training on 2008, and the same year I get my farm. And if you see, I am from Mexico City. I am from Mexico City. And when I try to get a loan for buy a farm, they ask me if I have a credit. So when they ask me that, I say, what's that? So I don't have any idea about credit. So I start building my credit from zero. The first thing what I get from my credit was to buy a computer. And then I get first my computer, I pay really, really fast. Then I get a rototiller. Then I get a small tractor. Then I get a greenhouse. Then I get another tractor. I think all these loans I pay on time and everything. I build my credit really, really strong. I try to get a loan from the FSA program. I don't qualify because they say you don't have enough time or enough records to show you have enough skills for run a farm. So then I going to talk with the lender of my bank and I explain him I want to buy a farm. They thinking at the first it was a funny thing. They don't think I have the ability. So they asked me for I think 5% of the cost of the farm. So when I think 2 or 3 months later, I come back, I say I have the money. But this process take for me like 3 years, from zero to get my farm. So you can see when I start this journey, I was thinking like if I get the land, everything is gonna be fine. But then when I get my farm, was just one part of the process. Easily I see it's not just a hobby. If I want to see my farm in another level, I need to see my farm like a business. So you can see, I mean, one of my friends, he climbed on a silo and he take the picture because I am scared of heights. So he did that picture for me, and was surprised when I see my farm on this. So when I talk about the big picture, it's not this picture. It's how do you see your business in a long term. So we have a house. We have greenhouses in the back. When I start my farm, I start growing, I think, like 40 different crops. Right now, just I grow 4. And it's because I made money on these 4 crops. I tried to run a CSA for 3 years. I don't make any money. I lose money. I tried to do in different ways. And when I say this to farmers who run CSA, they thinking I am crazy or I don't know. But for me, I don't think it's a good thing to try to run a farm with the CSA. It's very difficult. It's a lot of work. I try on different ways. I don't know. I can't do money with CSA, so I quit. Right now, I'm working with. We are the owners of Share Ground. It's a marketing co-op, owning for Latino farmers in St. Paul, and we have a CSA, but I think the ideal for us is we can work in a group of farmers and each farm can just focus on 3 or 4 crops. I think it's the easiest way to make money. I don't think it's another. I mean, there is farmers they say they make money on CSA model, but for me it don't work at all. I think in the future, maybe I am wrong, but I think in the future the CSA model for this farm is gonna disappear because the competition for get customers is very aggressive. I don't think it's a good idea, but it's just my personal opinion. I don't want to offend to nobody because people, I mean, the farmers are really tough people, so they don't, when you tell a farmer you are wrong, they don't like it. So it's just my opinion. I'm gonna show you people when they talking about farming, when the people going to Walmart or I don't know Menards or another store who sell small transplants. When you gonna buy, I don't know, 30,000 plants or 40,000 plants, and then you think, it's like just cost like 30 cents or 20 cents, but when you buy this amount of transplants, is the amount of money you're gonna need is really high. So you need to have a different skills. On my farm, I am a driver, accountant, planter, labor. Have a different positions on my farm. So when I'm talking about what involved farming is, you can see the list. This is a small list. It's not all. It depends on what kind of farm do you want. It's gonna be the same or close or maybe bigger, but it's seeds, fertilizers, transplants, insurance, diesel and gas, machinery, maintenance, business materials, tools, from really, really small tools to really, really big tools. When people thinking about tractor, they thinking it's a different, but for me it's a tool. A greenhouse is a tool. So electricity, telephone. It's just all these parts you're gonna need if you want to have your farm. So keep on mind, maybe your list is gonna be bigger than mine. When you talking about profit, I think is the main thing when you try to work on farming is just I have these few questions. This depends on maybe if I ask a question for you, maybe we can get like 50 or 100 questions. So I have some. Maybe you later you can ask to yourself what kind of questions you can ask if you want to make money on this business. It's like the first one is we have efficiency in our farm, and I give the example of CSA model because I tried in different ways and was jumping from one bed to another on different from different crops. Take time, take money. Every crop have different tools. Some tools are really specific for some crops, so it's very hard and very expensive to try to put a system in place. How much money we want to make on a farm? So when I start talking, I say I work in 2 full time. Some people they don't believe me. But it's true. Sooner or later you're gonna find out. And we wanna make a living. It's just we don't wanna be rich. I mean, yeah, we wanna be rich for sure. But the farming is a little harder. How much time we have? This is a really big question, a good question for you. If you have kids, if you like to go to party every weekend, if you like soccer, and sometimes you need to think on these questions because it's gonna affect your ability to work on these kind of businesses. If you have the farm, you need to see what kind of systems you have. If your system are efficient or are not good, you lose money. How much money do we have? And if one of the things I understand, if you want to make money, you need to have money for invest. Even if you have like $200, $300, or you have thousands of dollars, if you need to duplicate this money, you need to have, at least you need to have something, how you're gonna start. How long take to return my investment? This is an example of questions you need to think about it. Sooner or later you're gonna get the answers. Okay, planning for profit. The first thing when people ask me, oh, I want a specific kind of farm business, this is the first question: what kind of business do you like? Really small, really big? Did you want to work on grow broccoli or grow 20 or 30 different crops, or just 2 or 3? Or do you want to work with raise cattle or raise sheep? This is a question for you. I'm gonna show with my experience or with my example what all kind of different plans I have on mine every year, because if something goes wrong, you need to have a plan A, plan B, plan C, and plan D, or maybe more, to try to keep your business running. One of the first things what I learned when I started working on Minnesota Food Association was to write a business plan. You don't need to be like really complicated 20 or 50 or 100 page thing. You need to be like a simple thing, like I want to, I don't know, grow broccoli. I want to make $50,000 or $100,000 on sales, and I want to buy a tractor, but you need to have something, so you're gonna try to follow that, and it's a really good tool to have a business plan. Have a chronologic plan, like it's an example. The first year I want to grow, I don't know, produce on 1 acre, or maybe half, maybe 2 acres at the first year. But you need to have plan for the first year, for the 5 year, and for the 10 year. And you need to think what's gonna be the steps you're gonna take it for accomplish that task. Maybe I invent this, but I think it's this analysis of cost. When you grow any crop, in one point you need to see if you make, if you break even. If you break even, it's good because you don't lose money. And I have one example. A few years ago, I was working with Chipotle, the restaurant who sell burritos and tacos and bowls of Mexican food. I started growing bell peppers for them. They have a promotion, and they pay me, the first year they pay me $28 a case. Was no good, but was not bad. I can make some money with that money for each case of bell peppers, 20 pounders cases. So then the second year they lower the price because they told me the first year is they have the promotion, the people are really happy, the customers try to helping them. So everything was like the perfect. And then the second year they lower the price to 25. And every year they lower the price until I think the fifth year they drop the price I think $11 a case. So $2 is just the case because it's the cost of the case. It's $2, so they pay $9 for my bell peppers. So I go into a meeting and I ask them, okay, because I check my cost, how much cost to grow 1 pound of peppers, and they say I lose money. And he told me, yes, but we're gonna buy you 5,000 cases of bell peppers. So the opportunity, I gonna lose 5,000 times money because the price of each case, in the price of each case I lose money. So when you deal with these companies, you need to have in mind, if I make money, just do it. If you don't make money, there's no reason for doing that. It's no matter if, I don't know, do you like to grow tomatoes or onions or peppers? I hear stories of people say, oh, we got really beautiful tomatoes and beautiful peppers. But if you sell these crops on cents, you don't make any sense to grow these kind of crops. So when I talking with people about making profit, you need to think of these steps. The niche market. This is very important for our community. If you are an immigrant or you going to another country and see what the people sell on that country, and you want to grow this kind of produce or crops, right here is very good. You can sell your produce on really high prices. But it's not really good big market, but you can make some money. When I start my conversation, I start growing 30 different crops. But over the years, I start taking out some crops because I don't make any money. So right now I grow just 4. broccoli, cauliflowers, garlic, and heirloom tomatoes. And the reason is so simple. I make money on these crops. And I see people who make money on onions, on tomatoes, I don't know, cilantro, herbs. It's different. And when I ask them, how do you do that? And they explain me what is the system. They have the tools, they have the experience, they have the skills. So every farm is different. People, when I explain to people that we make most of our income on broccoli, people they thinking it's very easy to grow, but no, it's take a lot of experience, take good soil, good weather, a little water, expensive seeds, a lot of experience, and then you're gonna get good broccoli. Otherwise, I was working with farmers around the country, and we try on different climates, different parts of the country to grow broccoli. It's very hard. Take a lot of time to learn how broccoli grow. Big picture of your farm, thinking where or how, what kind of farm do you want. I have a lot of pictures, so I'm gonna explain a little bit about this picture. Okay, when you try to invest money on your farm, you need to think what do you need for start doing your job easier. I have that picture because I helping a farmer, a group of farmers to grow their business. They thinking they want this truck because they're gonna deliver a lot of produce. And when they say that, I tell them, no, it's not a good idea. It's not a good investment to buy a truck. I think the trucks, they going to in the end of the list. You start first with a tractor, with a cooler, with implements for the tractor. But if you want to deliver products, just put on the end, because you don't gonna need much. Put on the end. They say no, we want the truck. So then I think they use the truck for I think 5 times, and the truck broke down. And when they try to fix the truck, it's very expensive. It's more easy if you rent a truck because you don't gonna use much. So I have a picture of the truck because it's really a nice truck, but don't work. When Laura, she asked me about, can you show people about how do you invest your money on your farm? I don't know if this equation makes sense for you, because this is how I see my farm. In this country, I don't think okay. Land is expensive, tractors are expensive, but I think the more expensive thing on this country is the labor, because you need to pay by the hours to people. I try to figure out different ways, but I think it's the most expensive things, because you need to have insurance if you have people helping in the farm. So for us, the easiest way to deal with that is to buy tractors, buy implements, buy tools. If you have a tractor on your farm, it's gonna be like 10 people working with you. You need to be very careful, but I think it's equal, or maybe more people if you have the right tractor for your operation. But I have some examples that you can use tractors or implements for weeding, planting, harvesting, watering, You just name it for what you want, a tool or tractor, and you can find it. For example, this is really low. I put like $10 because if you want to hire somebody, you're not gonna say, "Oh, I'm gonna pay you $25 an hour," because they're gonna make more money than you. If you are really honest with people, they say, "Okay, I'm gonna give you a place to stay, I'm gonna give you some food, and I'm gonna give you $10 an hour." So most of these people, like people who are in high school or people who want to work for a few days, then they say, okay. So putting this much of money is gonna be $80 per day if the people want to work 8 hours. So then, if you have 5 people, you need to invest like $400 a day. So if you put these $400 a day and you want people to work for a month, it's gonna be $12,000. So the way to invest, to deal with that is to buy tools, buy the implements, because the labor is very expensive. And I'm gonna show you some examples of how much money you can save if you get the right tools, invest on the right tools. Example, we was cleaning garlic by hand, one by one. Takes so long, and then I put a pressure washer and take like 2 minutes to clean like 200 or 300 at a time. But you need to try different things. Sometimes when I going to visit the different farms around the country, sometimes when I see the things, I think, wow, these people is crazy to try to doing this thing with that thing. But then when I see what they accomplish or what how much work they can do with some tools they surprise me. So just try to invest on the tools who can improve your work. Here's another example. We try to put plastic by hand. When I start working on my farm, I was 30 years old, and my brother and I, we put, for 2 or 3 years, we put plastic by hand, and we put 8,000 feet of plastic just by hand. We lose weight. It was good.
How many days take?
A month.
A month?
We put 2 or 3 beds a day. But sometimes when we are so tired, we eat something and I remember the last time when I put plastic by hand, we finish, I eat at dinner, and I go into my bed and I fall asleep with all my clothes. I don't take everything because I was so tired. See, I am done, and then I go into bed. But that time I thinking like, okay, we need to find a tool for doing this. So we get this tool. And not expensive. But if you see how much money costs this tool and how much money you're gonna save because the time is worth it. So you can put 8,000 feet of plastic maybe in 2 days. Taking your breaks, taking your time, drinking some beer. Yeah. So sometimes people say, oh, the tractors are very expensive. The implements are very expensive. But you need to see how much time and how much labor it takes for you to do the same job. And I can say about efficiency. And people, they don't trust me until they start planting everything by hand, weeding by hand, harvesting by hand. take a lot of time and effort. Sometimes when you are, I don't know, 20 years old or 30, but when you are 40 like me, it's not that easy. No.
Is
So,
that yours?
Yep.
How much does it cost for the image?
I think costs 2,500. And the tractor costs, I think, like close to 8,000. But if you take care of a tractor, I see tractors who runs for 40 years, 50 years.
Yeah.
In here and in Mexico too, I see tractors in Mexico runs for 60 years because people take care.
Do you bought that one from Johnny's?
Yeah. I get that from Jordan's.
Jordan?
Yeah. And I have another company and I see different product and it's worth it. So investment is an important for growing your farm. And I have efficiency because I see all the time efficiency. So you can see when you start working on your farm, you can see different steps. And at the end of the thing, you're gonna see the quality of your products. And when we start growing produce in Minnesota, we start doing everything by hand, but we have, I think the second year we have 2 acres, and we keep in doing by hand, my brother and I. When we try to deal with the weeds, just we working okay. We win on 1 acre, but on the second one we lose everything because the weeds grow so fast. People they don't think if you don't weed in on the right time, and then you come back 2 or 3 weeks later, everything is done.
Do you have machine to remove the plastic mulch after the harvest? You do, right?
Yeah. And even if you don't have the tools, but if you take the plastic on time, it's gonna be very, if you try to deal with the weeds, it's easier to deal with the plastic at the end of the season.
Okay.
And for last year, we started putting roll cover, really heavy plastic on the road, so you don't need to weed at all. Just you need to weed what is the plants. This is garlic. People told me if you put garlic on plastic, they don't gonna grow. But we tried for a few years and it's working really good. And or garlic, we grow just garlic just for seeds. And if we have some, we can sell for fresh market, but it's really small amount. Most of our garlic is we sold for seeds. The reason we sold for seeds is because it's very expensive. So we can make more. Standardize your operation. Have a system. And I don't know, maybe if you're thinking in a crop, I can try to find different systems can work really, really easily. When I say standardized, the beds need to be the same size. I go into farms, they have really, really small beds and then really big beds. If you are standardized on one size, you're gonna save a lot of time and money. With rows too. When I put the stations, this is an example. This is gonna be for food safety. When you put washing stations or hand cleaning station on the farm, it's easier than walking to the house all the time. And I see farm when I ask people, where do you wash your hands when you're going to harvest? They say, oh, I going to the house. You going to the house every time? Yeah. Oh, why you don't put a washing station or a hand washing station in here? Oh, it's expensive. And I say, expensive? No. And you can do a hand washing station with really simple things like a table, a bottle, a thing where you're gonna catch the dirty water, some soap, and some paper towels, and your station it's gonna cost like $30, maybe less. But you need to have all these systems on your farm. And roads. I see people harvesting produce and they need to walk in. And I say, why you don't put a road right here and you can bring the tractor or your truck just for harvesting. And people they say, oh, but I'm gonna lose the space. I say, yeah, but you have all this space more. Oh, you're gonna have more time for doing other things. You try to do easier for you and for your body. But sometimes people they don't thinking they need this kind of system on the farms. So
I have a question. What kind of water system or irrigation system do you have?
Yeah.
Sprinkler or drip or
I have-
well water?
I have 3 different ones. I have sprinklers. I have how do you call? With T-tape. I have another with micro irrigation. It's really keen, but you can irrigate like 2 or 3 beds at a time, and you use a really small amount of water. So you
have
can
You have well water?
yes, and I have water from a river. So sometimes I pump the water from the river to irrigate my broccoli. When the broccoli is in a small stage, I can irrigate with the river water. I can accomplish that for GAP and for food safety. And you can see if you have the beds on the same size, it's very easy. But you need to have a lot of labor too. This is the broccoli. And we have a lot of weeds because the soil on my farm is really, I don't know, healthy. When we get the farm, the soil was okay, but every year we improve the quality of the soil. So it's another investment. And people told me organic productions are not good because the quality of the produce is really bad, but it's not true. If you have a healthy soil, I mean your produce is gonna be really high quality. And if you have the certification for your farm, the price of your produce is gonna be really high. Versus conventional, you can get, I don't know, between 30 to 200% more of money for the same kind of produce versus conventional and organic. But the trick with this is you need to have certified. I see, and it's a good investment for your farm.
What are some things you do to improve the soil health?
Okay, when we start, when we buy the farm, I try to use sustain fertilizer, but it's very expensive. People, they don't think it is expensive because sometimes people buy a 50 pounds bag for 23 or 20, 21 or $25. But then when you buy like, I don't know, 5 or 6 pallets, and then,
And it's business, right?
yeah, it's very expensive. So what I use for that, I use two things. I use turkey manure. So what I did with turkey manure, I apply on fall, and I disking and plowing the plot. So I turn all the soil. I put the turkey manure, and then on the top I put cover crop. So then I leave this part for 1 or 2 years. So then I working on this part, and it's it's not expensive because we can apply, I think 20 tons on 2 or 3 acres at a time, and we pay $800 for 20 tons. But the hard part is you need to find a turkey farm close to your farm. But you can use cow manure, horse manure. You need to find if there is a farm close to your farm.
So
But this is
you say you use turkey?
Yep, turkey manure.
So you apply once before you turn the soil, and then
Yes,
you
it's on
apply
fall.
the second one after that.
Yep.
Before cover.
Yeah, and you can see it. Yeah, right here. You can see this part is on a cover crop, and then when we working, we planting, we put the plastic, and then we put the seeds, and
Those are turkey?
yep.
Are those, they're not raw turkey manure, right? Or they're like, composted?
No, it's a regular. This is not compost,
It's not composted?
but they apply on fall.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because you know how like cow manure, you have to have like 160 days or something?
Yeah, but when you apply on fall, you have enough time because you're gonna start working the field.
Okay.
It's
4 months, sorry.
October, November, December, January, at least 6-7 months.
Just be sure because the food safety has.
Yeah,
You said
but-
it's 1 to 20 days if you do it, but that's over 1 to 20 days.
No, the way how I explain people deal with that is to try to apply compost on fall. It's very tricky when you try to apply compost or manure in the middle of the season. It's not good. Even if somebody get hurt, it's not just the people, this is yourself. Sometimes people, they think, we can do that. But if somebody gets sick, it's very expensive for your farm. Okay, I have another example of invest on tools. Okay, this is a transplanter. This machine is a transplanter. So you can plant like 8,000 plants on a day with three people. Two people. Yeah, 2 people working, planting, and 1 people driving the tractor. My brother, he can do like planting 2 rows at a time because he has more experience. So cost like $3,000. But if you plant like 8,000 plants on a day for, I don't know, for 10 times, it's gonna be like close to 40 or 50,000 plants. So the amount of labor you're gonna use trying to plant these plants is worth it if you get a transplanter.
So one bed at a time or two bed?
It depends. But when you plant broccoli, you plant two rows at a time. If you plant garlic or onions, you need to pass the machines first, and then you going with the crew behind. Yeah. But saves a lot of time because you can watering and open the holes with the same machine at the same time. So it's a time saver. And you can see these guys, they thinking, oh, I'm gonna try to do by hand all the time. When they get the machine, I go in there and I explain them. They are really happy. Most of my presentations are pictures. I really like, I think the people understand better when they see on pictures. Sorry for my English, sometimes it's like funny or tricky. Yep. Somebody else?
What variety of broccoli do you like to grow? The variety of broccoli?
I have 5.
You have 5 that you like?
Gypsy, Imperial, Marathon. And I tried two new ones, but most, yeah. I can give you the varieties if you want.
What's that?
I can give you the different varieties.
Oh, I've heard of the first few that you talked about. The first 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But every year it's a new variety, so you can play with different ones. I'm gonna show you about tomatoes. It's another. I mean, you need to see what the people like. People, they thinking when they try to have a business, they thinking if they buy tractors and all the greenhouses and all the tools, but I think the first step is to working on markets, on marketing. You really going to ask people what they want, is hard to find of the groceries, then you have okay, we need to grow this. Talking with restaurants, the high-end restaurants, they pay really good. So I was talking about broccoli. When I talking about systems, is I think it is the easiest way to do your job. And when we're talking about investments, if you can see, when we harvest, people they thinking, oh, it's just cheap things. But invest money on the wheelbarrows and a few trailers, a few tractors, and have all these things at the same time on the fields, you're gonna save a lot of time and money. In the middle of the season, when we harvest broccoli, we harvest, I don't know, between 50 to 150 cases a day with 2 or 3 people. I think people they think it's very hard. The reason why we grow broccoli is because it take like 2 or 3 minutes to fill a case of broccoli, because you put like 20 or 30 heads on a box. So I see people like harvesting broccoli, they put on one case and they bring into the packing shed. They take all the leaves and they put on another case. So we try to simplify all the process and all the system. So we harvest on the field. We take off all the leaves at the same time, and we put on the box, new boxes. If you can see the boxes are new. You can see right here the broccolis, and then we bring to the house and we put ice and we put on the truck, ready for delivery. We deliver broccoli 3 times a week. Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. And I don't.
Customers in the cities?
Yeah. I sold broccoli to mostly for wholesale. So, yeah, I'm gonna. Yeah. Yeah. We are one of the best broccoli growers on state. Our broccoli is really well named. People ask if it's from California. Yeah. Yeah, and I don't want to offend nobody, because some people it's not true. But yeah, we have a really well name for broccoli.
Do you cover the flower? No.
No.
Just let it grow normally?
Yeah, we get one. It's not a secret. It's the way to grow broccoli. You can get one head for each plant. So if you can see, right here you can see the stems. We cut. I see people like, oh, I'm gonna try to harvest the small heads in the sides, but it take a lot of time. So if you focus on the one head, I remember 2 years ago, at the end of the season, we have, I think, like 2 or 3 weeks was really warm, really hot. So the broccoli grow really, really big. So I was worried about the size, and I was thinking the buyers they don't want. So what I did, I cut. I mean, this is the head. So I cut this really. I cut the stem off. So it's just crowns. So some crowns get like 2 or 3 pounds. So the markets they don't reject it, my products. I mean, I call them, I explain them, I have broccoli, but it's a little big, but the heads are perfect. So they said, okay, send us like 20 cases, and we'll see. And then I send the cases, and then later they call me, they say, do you have 200 cases? Yeah, okay. So, yeah. Tomatoes.
So what variety? This is a what variety?
We have like 12 different brands. I don't remember now, but I can give you the list. Yeah. And it's another, I mean, you need to think what I want to invest on my farm to do my job easier. For example, these boxes, I pay like, I think like $6 a case, a box or a crate. And you can harvest, I don't know, 60, 70 cases. And if you harvest the tomatoes on time, you don't gonna lose tomatoes on field. And then you can search about the quality very easily and then send it to the markets. And you think about it in your business, what really you need for do your job easier? What I need to invest? And you don't lose tomatoes because we harvest tomatoes. Sometimes it's like between 50 to 70% ripe. If you have tomatoes like really ripe, are 1 or 2 days when you put in the boxes, and then you're gonna lose the tomatoes. If you harvest the tomatoes when it's like 60 or 70% ripe, then you put on the boxes and then you send it. When they get on the market, they got perfect. So another thing on our farm is the quality.
How far away are your customers? I mean, are they getting the deliveries in like a day or two? Or
Sometimes 3 or 4 days, because I deliver it to the wholesale markets. Okay, it's a good question. When I'm really ripe, I send to CSA because they're gonna get for the next day. They're gonna be on the customer's hands. But if you need to deliver it, tomatoes to a wholesaler, need to be like, I think the shelf life need to be longer. So if you see some of these tomatoes are not ready. These ones are like, I don't know, 50% green and red. If you put it, and some people they say they lose the flavor, but I don't know. I really try the flavor of really these tomatoes are perfect. But some people they try to deal with you about the flavor, but it's better to sell like 80% of your tomatoes and lose like, I don't know, 20 or 10%. But you don't lose because you can bring these tomatoes from another market, like CSA or farmer markets, or you can make salsa for yourself.
Did you say how much, like if you were bringing a flat like that to one of your wholesale, how much would you get for a flat of those tomatoes?
$50.
Oh, really?
50. $2.50 per pound.
Okay.
And for wholesale is really high.
Oh, sorry. Is it like a mix of heirloom and?
It's just heirloom.
Oh, it is. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how much. Organic heirloom. Yes. Yes. Just heirloom tomatoes. At the beginning, I started to growing Roma and slicers, but the markets are not that good. And we tried for heirloom tomatoes, and they for me, I think like 5 years of losing money on heirloom tomatoes until we get for example, right here we have the high tunnels right here in our field of tomatoes. At the beginning we plant like, I think like 1,200 plants of tomatoes, and we don't make any money because as soon as it start rotting the tomatoes, because we plant tomatoes outside. Then when I start putting tomatoes on high tunnels, the first year I made $3,000 on one high tunnel. So right now I plant like I think 600 plants, and it's plenty. It's a lot. Sometimes with the new farmers, I explain them if you put like 100 plants with on a high tunnel with really good soil, then you can make money on 100 plants. It's gonna be a little work, but you make money. Okay, if you want to invest, you can find all these implements you can find on newspapers, on internet. Dealers, if you have already your farm, talk to your neighbors. I know people have implements lay on the farms. You can buy really, really cheap. In auctions, even newspapers. We live on Wisconsin, so it's some of the newspapers. And you can see tractors. You can do a lot of things with tractors. Just you need to be very careful. Yeah, people, they don't think about the tractor, but it's very dangerous. You can kill yourself if you don't take the safety really, really, really serious. People, they thinking because are so slow, they don't, but no, I think it's one of the most dangerous job on this country. In every country, is the tractors. You need to be very careful. And this is when I was on a conference when they talking about the safety on tractors, and they say if you have an accident with a tractor, kill somebody, then it's gonna affect your business. They're gonna close down your business because somebody is. And it's very hard for the insurance. So you have to be very careful. So you want to buy implements of tractors, actions. I was on a few. Sometimes you pay more than what you expected. Value of the things because people start putting more money. Sometimes some people they don't thinking because they want to buy the thing, they put more and more, and then so if you really go into options, at least you need to put a budget. Okay, I want to pay this much. If you go higher, just quit. They're fun, good food. Neighbors, if you have farmers, really old farmers close to your farm, they know who can help you to fix the things, tractors. The prices can be better. Helping to find, if you have old farmers close to you, ask what kind of tractors do you think is your favorite, and they can give you really good advice. The honesty is very good. If you buy a tractor thinking on the parts of the tractor, some tractors are really cheap, but it's really hard to find parts because they're very expensive. I have John Deere. I don't like really John Deere because the parts are very expensive. And I think it's because they're green. I think if you're going to John Deere dealer and you're going to a Case or Kubota or another dealer, the same part is gonna be more expensive on the John Deere dealer because it's the color.
Brand name.
Yep. If you want to sell your car more expensive, paint green, and then you're gonna get more money. I really like to buy on Craigslist. Most of my things I get from Craigslist or eBay. The thing is, on eBay, you need to buy things with credit card. On Craigslist, you need to have the cash. Sometimes you call in the morning, they say, oh, we still have the things. You call later and it's gone. So you need to have the money on hand. Dealers, there is some implements that are really hard to find, so you need to go straight to the dealer. I really like to buy the Japanese. Oh no, Mahindra is from India, but they're really good tractors. Right now are more expensive. 5 years ago, they introduced Mahindra into the American market. You can get the tractor really in a good price, but now it's a really well-made tractor, very efficient with the diesel, very handy, really strong tractors. I really like Kubota. Kubota, I think versus other brands, I really like Kubota. I have tractors. My oldest tractor. It's this one.
First, right?
The first one I'm getting here. It's a 24 horsepower tractor. I pay I think $5,000, and it's running. It's still running. Every year running, and it's very handy. We can work on the greenhouses, inside the greenhouses. We have a few implements for the tractor. It's very good. Kubota. Oh, I have a John Deere. That tractor every year it broke down. It's very expensive. Another Kubota. Really good brand. I really like the tractors. Yeah, I have a Mahindra. If you want to buy plastic or irrigation systems, or talk to these guys. Knowles is I don't know, Amish farmers. Surprised me because they use internet. Last year they started using internet. In the past they used just phone. Was funny, but they're really nice. They know everything about farming. If you thinking, oh, I need to put an irrigation system on a greenhouse, you have some ideas, and they ask you, do you want the cheapest way, the expensive way? And they give you really good advice. Very friendly. For me, it's like hard when I speak English with people, but they understand. So it's good. Have a few recommendations. Okay, about loans. When I say at the beginning, I start my credit really with the small things, with the computer, because I don't have the skills for using a computer. But then if you have the implement or you have the computer, you need to try to learn. When I started learning how I use a computer, my teacher, he told me, don't worry about the computer. This thing is very hard to break. So just play with the computer. It's the same with, not with the tractors, but with the implements. Try different ways to use the same implement on different crops. Sooner or later, you're gonna find out what is the best way to use the implements. If you wanna buy a tractor, this is really ideal. But buy a 65 horsepower tractor, are a little bigger, are not cheap. But you can use a tractor for everything. You can see with a bucket, but you need to have at least These few implements, a plow, this. Another thing you need to think about it when you start a farm, get a cooler. No matter this is more cooler. For extend the life of the produce. And I mean, for example, broccoli, if you harvest in the morning and you cool down, can last for a week because you take all the heat inside of the broccoli, and you can increase the shelf life of your produce. Transplanter is a company in Ohio. It's really good. You can plant. I mean, you can use the same transplanter for different crops. We use ours. Is that one? I have another picture. Yeah, that one. You can see it. We use that one for planting garlic, onions, tomatoes, peppers, winter squash, melons, watermelons. Yeah. But I name a few more crops, but we grow just for us. We have a small garden, like this big, just for us. These are our products. But we use the same transplanter, and we can plant everything on a week.
What's in the bag? Is it manure or what's it?
It's soil for the transplants.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, in the past I get small bags. Not very expensive. If you get in a bulk, I mean the price is different. It's not cheap, but it's better. I say thinking on a cooler. It's no matter if it's a small cooler. Yep. You can. Now we're talking about greenhouses. Yeah, this is a thing. You remember a company was on St. Paul. They sell plants and flowers. Was on Larpenteur. Oh, it wasn't here. How do you call?
Linders, right?
Linders. They closed down, and we get 15 greenhouses. But it was very expensive because take for us a year to take it down. And try now start building these greenhouses. Take a lot of work, but we pay, I think, between $1,000 to $2,000 for each greenhouse. Not all, but you can see it.
You had to take it down
Yeah.
and take it back?
You should tell them how many hours you spent taking them down and putting them up.
Take a
They
year.
save money, but they put enormous amount of time into it.
Yes. Take a year. If you ask me, oh, can you do that again? No. No. It's too much.
Are they all put up yet?
No.
No.
And ours we have some big and some are huge. The small ones are 30 by 100, but the big ones are 30 by 160. And we get really cheap. Feet. But they're really cheap. But the thing was the labor. And what we was thinking at the beginning, oh, it's gonna be easy. Take a year to take it down. Yeah. And we put it back. Yeah. Yeah, I say tractors. I don't know. Thank you. I hope this can be helpful. Yeah, when I am a farmer and I have a lot of experience be a farmer, but I never go to school for be a farmer. But I guess when I talk with new farmers, I explain, you just ask me, for sure I make the mistake already, so you can save money.
So in summary, if you had to think back when you start this whole process and you ask yourself, if I knew X, Y, Z, life would have been a lot better, what would those be?
Okay. If I want to come back to the beginning, I really see myself to just simplify my operation,
Okay.
like from 2 or 3 crops on the beginning,
Okay.
with 2 or 3 tractors, big tractors, with all the implements. Sometimes in some jobs, you're thinking, oh, I'm gonna do by hand because, and I see in a few communities, and I see on the Hmong community, I see on African American community, they thinking if they do by hand, they're gonna save money, but that's not true, because it's gonna be very heavy for your body. When you, what I say, when you have like 30 years old, 25 years old, you are fine, but then it's harder. So if you start taking care of yourself from the beginning, then it's gonna be fine. It's hard, it's still hard work. But then, yeah, it can be, you can see 2 different kind of farmers, the happy farmers and the farmers who really don't want to do this job no more. So it's just, I mean, I can see myself when I was working on the factory, I was happy at the beginning, but then it was hard for me to go into work. And I really like to work outside because every day is a different day. Sometimes you change okay, we have a plan for this day, but it's raining, so you need to change to do other things. But it's fun. I really like to do that.
Always something new, always something different. Have to think outside the box.
Yes.
You don't get that in a factory or office environment.
Yeah, you can see many brilliant minds are dead on the factories because they don't have the ability to thinking. And I see myself on that position when I was making horseshoes. They pay okay, but no, I don't like that work. Yep.
Farm experience before getting to that?
Yep.
You had some experience before getting
Yep.
to that?
Yeah, I am from Mexico, and my family, they have a farm in Mexico City. Yeah. We grow broccoli and some herbs, but most of the crops what I grow in here, I learned here. Used to thinking, for us take like 2 or 3 years to understand one crop. Even if you try to understand the market, it's good if you try. Just on a small amount, you can see if this market is in the market. Where are you from?
Somali, is that?
Yeah, you just thinking about the crops of the community consume. Maybe you can see, okay, because I'm gonna say this. We start on this business because we try to find some produce for some dishes from our country, and I going to different markets, I can find it. So when I come back I was with my brother and all this on that day. When we come back home, we was talking about, you see, it's not what we need. Yeah, but the quality was so poor. So we say, okay, we start just growing for us. And then it was like a hobby at the beginning. When people start asking for other products, it start take more serious. I mean, yep. Thank you.
The sharecrop co-op that you own or you run that?
We own.
You own it?
We own.
How many customers do you have? How many farmers do you have?
Okay, we are 7 farms who own share around.
Okay.
We working with another 25 farmers getting produce.
Okay.
They are no members, just we are partners on the business. And we have 200 members of CSA. I think we have like 25 restaurants who do businesses. We sold to the schools. We sold to wholesales, Ross Davis, and a few wholesalers more. It's a small business, but we need to get more members. Maybe this year or the next year we're gonna open for other communities to be owners of children. And we are a multicultural business, and I think it's the key for working. For selling our produce. But I say, for a farmer, it's no matter from which community you are. It's markets is the top. It's not another barrier. You can buy the land, you can get tractors, trucks, you can find labor. But if you don't have the ability to sell your produce, you are down. And it's very simple. Yep. And we have Ground, we have 2 managers who helping us to sell products.
So it's like, so you have an office and a building, you have people that
Yes.
are finding customers.
Yeah. We have a maybe, I don't know, we start thinking to rent some space right here, but we have a building on 7th Street, close to the Mexican consulate. Across the street, we have offices and small greenhouse, cooler there. We have 2 trucks for deliveries. More question?
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we have one more presenter tonight. John Flory is here to talk a little bit about what it takes to get a loan to make some of these investments. So from a lender's perspective, from the New York Academic Development Center. So,
How much time?
we have until 8. So
Okay. My name is John Flory. I work, well, no, that's not true. I am recently retired from Latino Economic Development Center, where I worked for 15 years as a small business consultant and small business lender. Previously, I worked for another community organization doing small business consulting and lending for 15 years there. So I have 30 years experience working with small businesses. Probably 2/3 of them, I was thinking, I think I have probably worked with 300 businesses in putting together loan applications and loan packages, most of which were approved. Most of those businesses were startup businesses, probably 2/3 of them. And most of the loans were micro loans, meaning that they were average $10,000 to $20,000 each. I also have been on loan committees of about 4 different community organizations, and with those organizations probably reviewed 1,500 small business loan applications. So I have a lot of background in small business lending, not as much in agricultural lending. Our organization, Latino Economic Development Center, began working with small farmers about 8 years ago. We are one of a very few community development financial institutions which are lenders certified by the Treasury Department that are community-based lenders and are more flexible in their loan policies than commercial banks. We are one of the few lenders in the state, community loan funds, that make agricultural loans. There are really hardly any that do. I think I'm going to try to explain. Well, let me start out by saying business lending is quite different than personal loans. Many of you have borrowed money to buy cars, particularly, or houses. Buying a car especially, there's kind of a formula. It's pretty simple for someone to make a decision about whether to loan you money to buy a car. It involves the value of the car, which you can look up in the Blue Book what the value of just about any car is. It involves checking to see having you prove what your personal income is and that it's more than your personal expenses, and checking your credit history. And often in a day or two, a loan decision can be made. But it's pretty much a formula. For buying a house, it's very similar. It may take longer and more proof of what your income is and an appraisal on the house, those sorts of things. But there's a formula for both of those kinds of borrowing. Business lending is quite different. Every business is different. You can't look up in a Blue Book what the value of a farm is. And so a lot more information is required to get a business loan, to get a farm loan, which is a subset of business lending. And let me run through some of the basics of small business lending. And if I have time, if I don't take too long, I turned in 2 loan packages today for farm loans, one a $10,000 loan for working capital, one a $25,000 loan for part of the cost of the purchase of a tractor. And I can give you a little background on sort of the strengths and weaknesses of each of the loans and my challenge in presenting them to a loan committee to try and get them approved. What you need to have to apply for a loan is a farm plan. I'm going to talk specifically about farm loans. A farm plan. The farm plan is a version of a business plan. You need to describe what you're going to produce. If you're raising vegetables, what kind of vegetables you're going to grow. You need to describe what resources you need to produce those vegetables. How many acres of land, what types of equipment, what staff or what employees or what workers you need to produce. And you need to figure out what the cost of, this is particularly for starting a business. There's somewhat different requirements for starting a business or borrowing money for a business, an existing business. Borrowing money to start a business is much more challenging than borrowing money for a business that has been operating for several years. Because the lender looking at someone who is starting a business is saying, you are just guessing. It might be an educated guess. You're guessing what's going to happen in the business. If you have a history of operating a business for 2 or 3 years, you can predict with a lot more assurance what's going to happen in the future year that that you get the loan and you are paying off the loan. So the plan is very important. Well, in both cases, the plan is important. But if you have an operating business, your plan can be backed up by what's happened in previous years. So if you're starting a business, if you're starting a farm, you need to figure out what the cost of each of these resources is going to be. How much you're going to pay to rent land, for example, assuming you're renting land. How much you need to spend to purchase equipment. How much you are expecting to pay someone else to work on your farm, or who is going to do the work, because labor is one of the highest expenses in operating a farm. If you and your family members are going to provide the labor, you're going to get paid out of the profit of the business, not by getting an hourly wage. If you're paying somebody else, you have to calculate how many hours you're going to end up paying someone to work on your farm. So this is part of the plan. What are you going to produce? What do you need to produce it? What is your market going to be? It's very important for a lender to be convinced that your business idea is economically viable. That this is something that is going to pay for all of its expenses. It's going to have enough sales that the expenses are going to be less than what the sales are, and there's going to be a profit because the loan is going to be paid out of the profit. So the first question is your business idea a viable business idea? This is what you have to convince the lender. How much information you need to present is going to vary significantly depending on the dollar amount you're borrowing. The more you borrow, the more evidence you have to produce that your business is going to be profitable, because it's out of profits that loans are repaid. It's not something that comes out of sales, it comes out of profits. There was a handout on the table back here that's a profit and loss statement. The numbers in your business plan are very important. Sometimes I get loan applicants that come, and there are two different sets of numbers. One is, and this is in the case, particularly in the case of starting a business, what is it going to cost to start your business? And this goes back to what resources you need. What do you need to pay to get land? What do you need to pay for all of the materials, the equipment you need, all of the materials, including a list of startup expenses here: seeds, plants, fertilizer, irrigation, tubing, those sorts of things. Sometimes I get applicants that come and say, I want to start a business, I need $25,000 to start the business, and my question is, tell me how you're going to spend the $25,000. I, as a lender, need to know how much you're going to spend on each category. If you're buying equipment, I want you to go out and get a bid on equipment, or get an invoice from an equipment company that says, this is the list of equipment I need for my business, and this is what the cost is. I don't want to hear just an estimate of what these costs are going to be. And so this profit and loss is a good guide for projecting. First of all, you need to figure out what it's going to cost to start the business. Then you need to figure out what it's going to cost to operate it. during the course. You've set up the business, and then you're going to have operating expenses. With farming, it's a little more complicated than, say, a retail store. A retail store has monthly expenses that are fairly similar. With farming, the expenses are spread over a season, and they occur at different times. They don't occur, the expenses aren't equal each month. They're different depending on what the activities of where you're at in the season. But this profit and loss statement gives you a good idea of the details of what you need to predict it's going to cost in the course of a harvest season. I look at this profit and loss statement. I don't know if this comes from an actual farm operation. I look at this and I think this is pretty optimistic. Sales of $24,000 and a profit of $13,000. As a lender, from loan applications I've looked at, I wouldn't believe that. I'd say let's assume maybe, although this assumes there is no labor cost included in here, all of this $13,000 in profit, a lot of it is going to pay the farmer and his family members that are not getting paid an hourly wage. And so if you really want to count the cost of those hours of labor, you should really figure out what your labor costs are, because labor costs are one of the highest costs you have. But if I look at this statement, I think, wow, this is optimistic. I've seen other farms that have had sales of $25,000 or $50,000, and they didn't make this much profit. So as a lender, I'm going to be a little skeptical of the borrower has to be optimistic. You aren't going to start a business if you aren't optimistic. The lender is going to be skeptical, and so you have to present numbers that are reasonable numbers, are conservative numbers really, because the lender is going to think what's going to happen in the worst case. So what the lender does, first of all, evaluates your business proposal. Is this business a business that's going to work? Based on what we know about other similar businesses, are you being realistic? But a key part, I skipped over the market question. That's one of the most important questions, especially for farmers. Many farmers start out believing, actually this is true of virtually every startup business, they are very enthusiastic about their product. They concentrate on their product. They don't focus enough on the market. You can grow $50,000 worth of vegetables, but if you only sell 20,000, it's a disaster. You're going to lose a lot of money. You have to convince the lender that there is a market for the product that you're producing, and that's one of the biggest challenges. Again, take a look at this profit and loss statement. As a lender, I want to see detailed projections, what you expect you're going to spend on your farm. Okay, so the lender first looks at the viability of your business idea. Is this a business that's going to work? And I look at this statement and I think, well, I don't believe there's going to be, say this is a startup business, a first year. I don't believe there's going to be a $13,000 profit. Maybe there will be a $7,000 profit. What will happen if I look at this and say, under conditions of a $7,000 profit, what size of the loan seems realistic? So I'm going to be thinking, if you're buying a tractor, a used tractor, maybe you can get one for $10,000, $15,000. First, I'm going to look at the viability of the business. Then I'm going to evaluate the borrower. Actually, I'm going to look at the collateral value of, if you're buying equipment, the collateral value of the equipment you're buying. So the lender is saying, am I going to get paid back? My first choice to be paid back is that the business makes money and pays me back. The second choice is if the business fails, I want to be able to repossess something and sell it and repay the loan fund. So if the tractor is worth, tractors maintain their value pretty well, so they're a pretty good source of collateral. But if I'm looking at a working capital loan of $10,000, I want to find something that borrower owns that if they can't make the loan payments, then I can take back whatever that is and sell it and recover the money. And for a $10,000 loan, a very likely collateral is a lien on a vehicle that people own, because most people own vehicles. Even if the vehicle doesn't have a value more than $10,000, or there's a loan against the vehicle, the owner cannot sell the vehicle without paying off the lien. So this is a hold on the individual that you're going to get paid back. So you look at the individual, how much income the individual has, and if the individual has a source of income outside of the business. What if the business doesn't make any money in the year of operation and the individual doesn't earn any income from the business? Is there another source of income? Does the farmer work in a factory where he's making $50,000? I don't remember how much you were making. We know each other pretty well. Probably 45,000. If the farm can't pay off the loan payments for the tractor, does the borrower have enough income that he can make payments? So, well, first of all, if he can't make the payments, I'll take the tractor back and sell it and recover the money. Unless he makes income from some other source and can make the payments. Part of what you're looking at when you're looking at the individual is you're also looking at the individual's credit report. Why do you look at the credit report? Because you want to see if this individual has paid off other loans that they have received in the past. If you see a whole list of loans that have not been paid off, you conclude this person has a history of borrowing money and then not paying it back. It's a big risk to make a loan to that person. Virtually every loan program will ask for a credit report and will ask why, if the credit report is a low number, will ask what were the reasons you didn't make payments on these previous loans. Going back to the question of income of the individual, does the individual have income from other sources? Every loan program that I'm familiar with will ask for tax returns, personal tax returns, probably for 3 years, to see what history of income you have earned, to show that if the business can't pay off the loan, you as an individual can earn enough money to pay off the loan. So these are sort of the basics of how a lender will look at a loan application. Let me mention a couple of other things. No lender wants to make a loan of 100% of the cost of your project. The more money you invest, the higher percentage of the project that you invest personally, the more money you can borrow. So lenders would always like to see, if you're going to buy a tractor and it costs $15,000, a lender would hope that the borrower will put $4,000 or $5,000 of their own money into it. This is for 2 reasons. One, it shows that you have a personal commitment. If you put your own money into it, you're much less likely to walk away from the project if it gets difficult. It also means that if we as a lender take back the tractor, if it was purchased for $15,000, we can probably resell it for $10,000 without much trouble. That's the perspective that every lender has. Now, the community loan funds are willing to take higher risks than a bank would. Virtually no bank will make a loan to a startup business unless the business person has a lot of experience in that type of business and is investing a lot of their own money into it. So the community lenders will take bigger risks, usually with fairly small amounts of money on a first loan. If that money is paid back, they develop confidence in the borrower and will consider larger loans in the future. Let me talk briefly about 2 loan applications that I turned in today, and some of the strengths and weaknesses. One is an application for $25,000 to pay for part of the cost of a tractor that would cost between $35,000 to $40,000. If it's $40,000, the borrower is going to put up $15,000 of their own. That's a big plus. The farmer has been farming on 8 acres, approximately 8 acres for 6 years. Last year was a really bad year. They had very low sales. The 2 years before that, they had $21,000 worth of $20,000 to $21,000 of sales. No, I think it was $15,000 the year before, but they don't have a good record of what their expenses were. This is a negative. What I as a lender want to see, if they have a history of farming, I want to see what they spent, what their expenses were, what their profit was on this $20,000 worth of sales. In this case, they have tax returns. This couple has another business, a construction business, and all of the farm expenses and income were merged into the tax return for the construction business. So I can't see any of the results of what the farming was. On the other hand, the construction business, I can't remember the total sales, was about $200,000. The profit from the construction business was about $45,000. Looking at their personal expenses, they live very modestly and bought a house on a contract for deed and pay $350 a month for their house. It's really low amount, so their total expenses are about $25,000 a year. So the income that the construction business is earning is a good secondary source of income if the farm doesn't produce enough to pay off the payments on the tractor. Because the tractor, then we get into sort of the term of the loan. Because the loan is $25,000, looking at a predicted income of maybe $30,000 sales next year, and maybe 25% of that is net profit, I propose that they pay off the cost of the tractor over 5 years. The loan committee will probably want to shorten that to 3 years, but it doesn't help a borrower or the lender if you set up a repayment schedule that that is going to be difficult for them to meet. But because of the value because they have 6 years experience farming, because of the value of the piece of equipment they're borrowing and the resale value, and because of this income from another business that I think could make the payments on the tractor if the farm doesn't produce enough, and because they have shown that they could sell in the $20,000 range. If they get the tractor will make their operation more efficient. They can produce more, and the likelihood they also have access to more land than they had previously. the prospect that they can be successful is, I consider this a fairly risky loan, but probably it will be paid off. The other loan is a $10,000 loan. It's a working capital loan. It's part of the cost of leasing an existing farm operation that basically, this is an unusual situation. It's paying $20,000 to operate the business that is a berry producing farm. This is an intermediate step towards a purchase of the business. A purchase of the land and the business has the business has had sales of between $90,000 and $100,000 the last several years. It's been operating for 15 years, I think. So we have records of how the business has operated previously. We know that this farmer has been growing for about 8 years. Now, they haven't had sales higher than $21,000. That's not a very, very large amount of sales. It's not enough to enable them to borrow money to purchase the farm. What their goal is to run the farm for a year or two and show that they can have income, have sales of about $90,000, which is probably enough sales, a good enough market to justify an application for a loan to purchase the property, which is going to be about $350,000. But given the sales they have last year, they could not possibly borrow $350,000. If they lease this property and are able to sell as much as the previous owner did, they have a good chance of being able to borrow enough money to buy the property. So those are two examples. They're both fairly risky loans, but the probability that they will be repaid is high enough, and the impact on each of these farmers, if they get the loan, is strong enough that I am backing the loan and hope I can convince the loan committee to approve these loans. The interest rates will be about 7%. For the $10,000 loan, I'm looking at a 2-year term to pay the loan. For agricultural loans, we schedule an annual loan payment at the end of the harvest season. We don't schedule monthly payments because a farm does not have consistent income through the course of the year. The income will come as the harvest season, probably August, September, October. And so typically we set up one annual loan payment. Questions? I've used up most of my time talking, not enough time for you to ask questions, but what questions do you have? The best loans available are from the Farm Services Agency, FSA. The lowest interest rates, the longest term, but most of our clients cannot qualify, have a hard time qualifying for FSA loans. FSA loans typically, now there's a microloan program that loans up to $50,000. What the FSA typically is looking for is considerable experience in agriculture. I think for the microloans they've relaxed. They used to require at least 3 years of managerial experience on a farm, like running your own farm or supervising production at a farm, or the loan program is really geared towards people that grew up on a farm and are you know, I'm exaggerating this a little bit, but are then, after growing up on a farm, buying out their parents' farm or buying somebody else's farm, they're not really set up for immigrant farm workers who we typically are our clients, who work on a farm but are not management level. They're harvesting or planting but are not running the operation. So while the FSA loans are, I don't know, the interest rates vary, but some of the loans are as low as 3% interest. Is a very good loan rate. Buying property, you can get a term of 30 years. You can't get this kind of loan from anyone else, but that doesn't mean it's easy to get the loan. There's another agricultural lender that has a micro loan program for immigrant farmers, particularly Compeer. Used to be AgStar here, but it merged with another ag lender, and it's now called Compeer. Our organization sometimes partners with them in making loans to farmers. Questions?
I have one question. Do you have any advice for people, like if maybe they don't need a loan right now to farm, but they want to like take out a loan in the next couple of years or something? What would your advice for them be? People that are kind of just starting.
For anyone starting a business, unless you have a lot of experience and a significant amount of money, you should start, I think you should start relatively small. It's a big risk to borrow a lot of money. It's a risk to the lender, it's a bigger risk to you, the borrower. Our strategy of business development, which has been aimed towards a group of clients that have access to few financial resources, is to start micro businesses, get experience operating that business. When you have experience and a bit of a track record, then that will qualify you for borrowing more money and also prepare you to understand how to run the business, or whether you want to be in this business. You don't want to borrow a large amount of money and then find out, be surprised that it's much more difficult than you thought, or you don't really like running this type of business. You don't have, if you borrow $80,000 or $100,000, you're locked into that. Or if you can't pay it back, it can basically wreck your life for several years. If you borrow $10,000 or $20,000, if it doesn't work out the way you expect, it's not as big a problem for you. It doesn't wreck your credit history for the next 10 years. So my advice is figure out an intermediate step, unless you have significant resources to invest. So I'm working with another farmer who is selling a piece of property in California for $240,000, and he can make a down payment on a farm in Wisconsin for a farm over $500,000, and the seller will finance the rest of the balance. He has experience farming, although he hasn't farmed recently, but the big thing he has going for him is that he has $240,000 to invest in buying a property. It's still a big risk. He has to he has to decide what he's going to raise on the farm and find a market for it. He definitely has to have a full-time job in a small town near that property to support himself and his family while he gets his farm up and running. I've used up my time. No questions?
Thank you. All right, thank you. We're going to do a quick evaluation to discuss before